Some of my earliest memories consist of me non-stop replay watching Freaky Friday on my Disney Princess TV. That thing is an ancient relic, so it should come as no surprise that this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Does this movie have some very questionable plot points that I look back on now as an adult and think, what were they thinking? Yes, absolutely. However, I'm not here to talk about the movie itself. I'm here because I want to make a custom doll. With Freakier Friday being in theaters now, I wanted to celebrate the nostalgia by making a doll of Lindsay Lohan's character, Anna Coleman, from the first movie. Now, while I don't really think that she has any extravagant looks that make for a jaw-dropping doll, I do think that the outfit she wears to school at the beginning of the movie is kind of an iconic image that I want to live on my shelf forever. And since this is a early 2000s film, I think the best option for making this doll would be an early 2000s iconic doll line, Bratz. So, with that, let's get started. So for the base doll for this project, I'm using a Bratz Scorchin' Chloe because she has a similar hairstyle and it's platinum blonde, and I am attempting my best work at dyeing this doll's hair today. Typically, I don't dye doll hair because it's very intimidating for me. I started off by sectioning a couple pieces out that I didn't want to dye, and I wanted to leave them as highlights. But this ended up not working out because they got dye on them anyway, so I just ended up dyeing the entire head of hair. This reddish brown, I think if I were to do this again, I would get a more blonde shade of dye, since Lindsay does have just like natural red hair in this movie and not like this box red hair dye, but I digress. I also bought some materials to do embroidery for this project. I've never done embroidery before. I'm using some standard cotton fabric. I did want to use like a natural t-shirt stretchy fabric, but I figured that the embroidery would be a lot more difficult, and since this is my first time trying to embroider something, I didn't want to do anything too crazy. So I did like a basic sketch of the pattern just so I knew how small to make the design, and here's what I got. I still think it's a little too big, so I did sketch this smaller version, and I'm going to use that as my little reference, and I'm just doing a normal back stitch embroidery the whole way around, and yeah, I think it turned out pretty well. I actually really enjoyed doing this embroidery, while it did take me a little while because this is the first time I've ever tried doing it. It's pretty similar to just hand sewing, so I honestly feel like I might do more embroidery on projects in the future if that's something that people are interested in. Just for like doll clothes, of course. I just thought it was really fun, and to make it in such like a tiny little design for a doll shirt, I think is a pretty cool detail to add. Once I was finished with the embroidery, I cut out all the pattern pieces I needed for the shirt and then sewed all of those together. I did cut the top front a little bit bigger than I wanted it to actually be, so then I could just sew it down even smaller just to be safe, because I'm not very familiar with making Bratz clothing, but I did try my best. Then I also cut out the pants pattern and sewed her some pants. The pants are not the color I wanted necessarily. I could not find like an army green fabric that I wanted, so I figured just making them cargo would be fine. I've had this studded ribbon laying around that I thought would work perfectly as Anna's belt. Off camera, I did a partial reroute just to add some highlights into her hair. I just used a dirty blonde, almost brunettish shade, I'm sure from Shimmerlocks. It was kind of just in a bag in my stock box, so I'm not sure what exact color shade it was. And now it is time for her face up, which I feel like a criminal for removing this gorgeous screening. This is honestly one of my favorite Bratz screenings I've ever seen. I literally am thinking about just buying another Bratz Scorchin' Chloe just for this face alone. I love it so much. I actually wanted to keep this shade of lipstick because I thought it was already perfect and the placement was really nice. So I'm only really repainting the eyes and the eyebrows and not the lips at all. I'm starting off with a basic pencil sketch for her eyes, using a lot of reference photos of Bratz screenings because I am not well versed in Bratz repaints. I don't have years of experience repainting Bratz dolls under my belt. I would love to work with Bratz dolls more often because I do find their face molds to be very fun to work with. I do think they are more difficult though, just because there's no definitive mold. It's kind of tricky to know exactly where I want to place the eyes, and it also makes symmetry a little bit more tricky, but I still really like working with them. In the end, I'm just trying to kind of make her look like a Bratz doll. I'm not necessarily doing a different style from the Bratz screening. In the end though, I kind of feel like I almost like Monster High-ified the screening in a way. I don't know, you guys can let me know if you see what I'm talking about. I feel like I just do so much of the Monster High factory style that I kind of just like unintentionally put that into this doll's face. But she has dark eyeliner all the way around her eyes, so maybe the black eyeliner on the top and bottom is kind of what makes it feel like that. I'm not too sure, but nevertheless, I'm continuing on with the pencil sketch here. The eyelashes were by far the most difficult part when I was painting this face. I think I sketched them about 3 or 4 times redoing them because it was just so tricky for me to get them, 1, symmetrical, and 2, in the right curved shape. I'm not exactly sure how to properly explain it, but I wanted it to naturally flow from her upper lash line, and here it wasn't. Here it was. So yeah, I just wanted it to like kind of come up out of the lash line naturally and not just like randomly start curving, if that makes any sense. And then I move on to a brown watercolor pencil and I'm sketching her eyebrows. After some shaping with a kneaded eraser, I am all done with the sketch layer, so then I go ahead and spray her with a layer of Mr. Super Clear, wait for that to dry, and then I move on to adding some chalk pastel for eyeshadow and blush. I didn't make her eyeshadow completely accurate to the movie. She has black eyeshadow on the upper lid that I did not really include because I thought it would look way too dramatic. So I added this black eyeshadow to the lower lash line to kind of give it like this blended out eyeliner, slight smoky look. I'm also adding a little bit of blush to make her have a rosy cheek, and then I'm adding some dark brown eyeshadow to the upper lid. This makeup look I did is fairly simple. I didn't want to do anything too crazy or dramatic compared to something I thought that Anna's character would have actually had. Considering she's a teenager in the early 2000s, I don't think she would have had an extravagant makeup look before going to school. After a couple more layers of chalk pastel and Mr. Super Clear, I am now going to be moving on to my acrylic paints. Starting off with her eyebrows, I'm just using a light brown that almost has a slight reddish tint into it because I wanted her eyebrows to match her natural hair color. Then I went over all of the rest of my pencil sketch with some black acrylic paint. This is also a very tricky part because trying to get the paint to be as thin as the pencil line of the eyelashes is rather difficult. I don't usually talk about how difficult it is to make the fine lines, but you need a extra small detail brush to get those lines really thin. Honestly, probably one of the best parts about repainting a Bratz doll is that their eyes are much bigger than what I'm used to working with, so painting the whites of the eyes is honestly a lot easier. At first I did the outline for her iris in black acrylic paint, and then I went over it later with a dark brown acrylic paint because I thought the black made it too bold, and I like the dark brown a lot better. Here I'm trying to be very delicate while painting the eyelid crease with a dark brown acrylic paint to match the eyeshadow. This is also a detail that I find extremely difficult sometimes, but sometimes I'm just a little bit lazy and I paint right over top of the eyelashes like you see me do here, and then go back over and fill in the lashes where they need to be. For her eye color, I'm using a dark green, and then I go in with a light brown to highlight the irises. Using the light brown as my guideline, I then go in and add the pupils with my black acrylic paint. As a little shadow to the whites of her eyes, I'm using a light blue acrylic paint just to add that right underneath the upper lash line. And then for a finishing touch, I'm taking a dotting tool and some white acrylic paint to add some highlights into her pupils. And that is it for the face up. I didn't add any freckles to this doll because I'm honestly pretty bad at doing freckles, and I can't really make them look natural yet. It's a technique I'm going to have to master. I also bought some Play Sports Chloe shoes, I believe is the doll this is from. Bought these off eBay and I'm going to need to fix up the paint chipping, but I think those will work perfect. Off camera, I added some small finishing details like her bracelets and her choker necklace with her guitar pick. I know that this doll is a rather simple custom, but nevertheless it is one I've wanted to make for a long time. I actually wanted to give this doll full body articulation using a different Bratz Chloe body. I tried using one that I already have in my collection, and for some reason they have two completely different skin tones and it was very jarring, so I didn't want to risk buying a new one and then having the same problem. So this will just be a classic Bratz non-super articulated body, but I kind of like the classic look that she has, almost like she was a Bratz doll that came out of the early 2000s. If you enjoyed this video, sharing it helps out the channel a lot and I greatly appreciate it. As always, if you want to like, comment, and subscribe, also helps out the video and the channel. And of course, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of my Patreon members. If you want to join the Patreon, the link is in the description. There you can watch my YouTube videos before they go up here, as well as early access to any custom dolls available in my shop. I had a lot of fun working on this doll. If you guys want to see more custom Bratz dolls in the future, let me know. I know I don't really do them very often here, but I do personally love working with them. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!